You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes. Hello, today is Wednesday the 3rd of September 2025 and you are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And I had initially a bit of a weird, aimless start to the day, so I slept in later than I should have done. It took me a little while to get to sleep last night, so I ended up getting up at about 10 o'clock. And then I struggled to be in the mood to write, which was annoying. And then I basically didn't want to not do some writing today. So at about 4 o'clock, something like that, I can't remember the exact time, I decided to a writing live stream on Twitch TV, and I thought, at the very least, if I just do a 25-minute word sprint, I can get a few more words written. And I went on, and I did, and it was okay. And I got chatting with, because I do have a handful of people that regularly come along when I live stream, and these do evolve over time. But there's a group of about 3 that I see really regularly now. And so I was nattering with them. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to do a second writing sprint. And what I also realised yesterday, with the stuff I wrote yesterday, I finished a scene too early. So I've got a load of characters discussing a third character about what's going to happen to her. And I suddenly thought, well, we've got to involve that third character. You know, it's rude. They can't just make a decision about her without her presence. And so I added a bit where they call her down and talk to her about the stuff that they've been discussing that I'd written yesterday. So I effectively expanded that scene and then wrote another, and I suddenly got into it. And one of the reasons I got into it was because there was something I needed to explain, which has been in my head for absolutely ages. Something about how the abilities, talents, magic powers, whatever you call what my characters can do, something about how it works that I decided absolutely ages ago that I've never incorporated into the book. And it was my plan to incorporate a reveal of how that works into this book. And suddenly, the scene I was writing between 2 characters was the right moment. And the other thing that's interesting was I had decided that there was going to be a character at some. So basically, what the way the magic-y, system-y thing works here is one of the reasons characters, once they've got these abilities, if they have them removed after a certain amount of time, they will probably die. And I explain that. And the reason is this. One of the things they can all do is some form of telekinesis. And what happens is, basically, is the nervous system of the body ceases to become relevant because the brain can telekinetically tell the heart to pump, the lungs to breathe, the legs to walk. So it doesn't need the nervous system. The problem is, if you ever lose those abilities, you will die because the body can't reassert its use of the central nervous system quickly enough. So that's kind of why people can't have, or why people can't have their abilities removed, or if they do, it'll kill them. And I'd already decided that, but I explained that. And another thing I had decided at some point in the book to illustrate this, I was going to have a character who basically broke their spine, that should technically have been, a wheelchair user, no use of the legs, no use beyond the waist down. And I suddenly realised it didn't need to be a new character. It could be somebody we'd already met, because there's nothing in book 1 that would say that this was not the case. So actually, one of the characters that we've already met, turns out, is someone who did break their back as a kid, but when their abilities started to, I want to say break out, but that's too tomorrow people, but once they started getting those abilities, they can use them to control their body. And so suddenly you've got someone who is paraplegic. As long as the spine is repaired from the point of view that the bones work, they can walk. And I decided to, so my character, so the character that is who that is gets revealed in the chapter I wrote. And so basically the 0 draft of chapter 8, and it ends on a cliffhanger, which I'd already decided But yeah, so the zero draft of that chapter is now done. It comes in at about 4,400 words. I'm exceedingly pleased with it. And my plan tomorrow, should I choose to accept it, which I will, is to try and get that chapter signed off. So turn the zero draft into the first draft, as I explained yesterday. So yeah, very, very happy with what I achieved today. If I can get a chapter signed off tomorrow, that's just marvellous, because it means in 4 days I've written 4,000 words. Now I do need to up the ante a little bit, but then I didn't write anything at all on the first of the month, so that's fine. And then the other thing I did today, which I ended up quite enjoying, was I went to the local writing group in my hometown, and it was quite good fun. And so what they like to do is they like to give you little writing exercises and prompts. One of them is literally they did 2 5-minute exercises and then a 15-20-minute one. And I haven't got time now because I'm nearly out of time, but I'm going to read you the first prompt I was given. And the prompt I was given for number 1 was simply an inconvenient hat. And this is what I wrote in 5 minutes. I don't think that is going to fit on my head. Mr. Sampson was in his 80s and was sitting with his friend Mr. Reeve. Mr. Reeve had borrowed Mr. Sampson's hat the week before to keep his head dry when walking home in the rain, whereas Mr. Sampson had preferred a taxi. He had subsequently lost it, and out of guilt had promised to replace it. No, honestly, said Mr. Sampson, it's awful. The rim is at the top, and it's a terrible, terrible colour. Mr. Reeve frowned. I'm sorry, it's the only hat I can offer you right now. Mr. Sampson closed his eyes. Then I would rather go without. He looked at the bar, then nodded towards it. You can offer me recompense by buying me another pint. Mr. Reeve stood stiffly and staggered over to the bar. A few moments later he returned, nursing 2 pints of beer. I spoke to the barman, he said as he placed the pint down on the table. He has a suggestion about the hat. Really? Yes, slowed Mr. Reeve. He suggests you try turning it the other way up. I don't know if that's funny, but I enjoyed writing it, and I wrote that in 5 minutes. Anyway, I have a couple of the other exercises here that I might bore you with tomorrow, but I've overrun by a minute or so here, so time for me to stop. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.